So since Sony put out the Sony ZV-1 back in May, no one's really had a chance to actually use this camera as a travel camera. So today we're going to actually find out how well this thing works as a travel camera. We are headed to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and I'm going to put this camera through its paces and kind of just see what the best settings are and if like automatic mode works better than manual settings. And we're just going to see how well we can make a travel vlog using this camera, but it's not a travel vlog. This is a gear review video disguised as a travel vlog. Let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do with the Sony ZV-1 is put it into full auto mode, which is called the intelligent video. This is going to allow the shutter speed to go to what it wants to, the aperture to what it wants to, and the ISO what it wants to. So in this mode, this is probably the most common mode that we're going to be seeing with this camera, but this is just the intelligent video. Hey, real quick guys, I just want to add this because I do say a few things wrong in this video. When I refer to program auto, what I really mean is intelligent auto. So in intelligent auto, it's Sony's AI. It's going to understand the scene you're in, and it's going to try to pick the best settings for your camera for that shot. Another thing with the intelligent auto is it's going to actually do a face exposure. So if you're in face tracking, it will expose to your face and not the background. You can use program auto, and it is a good setting, but I still think the intelligent auto is going to be a better choice. One thing I need to add to this is that the intelligent video does not quite understand modern LED lights. So sometimes you will need to switch this mode into a manual setting just to up your shutter speed until that flicker kind of goes away. It looks like an intelligent video might not give you the greatest picture. It's going to just try to basically get it to the right exposure levels. I can see that it's kind of changing back and forth. If you are doing a lot of jump cuts and edits and color grading, intelligent video is probably not what I would be going with because you want to keep a consistent look so you can cut and edit. Hey, while you're riding around in the back of your taxi or Uber, don't forget to put this camera in 120 frames per second mode and just start filming everything around you. This is a great way to collect different B-roll, and don't worry if the camera is too shaky because once you slow it down to 20%, it's going to start smoothing out anyways. Don't forget to set that camera down and do a walk-by. Classic shot. Alright, so we are in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico now, and we're going to be using this Sony ZV-1 for this whole trip, and we're going to really see if it's the camera that you should be using for doing travel vlogs. I'm currently using program auto. I'm going to probably stay in that for most of this trip, just because that's probably how this camera is mostly going to be used. Personally, I would probably prefer to go manual settings myself, but it is a lot more work, and when you're out and about doing run and gun vlogging, you kind of want to just have it work and not have to think about it. So this camera is supposed to have a feature where it exposes to your face. I think that might have to have eye tracking, which in this case my eyes are covered, so let's try that a little bit. Yeah, so I am getting eye tracking, and I think it is exposing my face, but the sun is now coming in from the side, which is probably blasting my side of my face. We are using the Ulanzi wide angle lens and the Ulanzi selfie stick to get a little further away from us, so this shot is a little bit wider, and I am running active mode. So that's how close this shot is. We are going to go get some tacos at a place called Memos Tacos. Memos? We're going to go to a place called Memos Tacos. We're going to see, does this camera take good video of food? Because let's face it, if you're doing travel vlogs, you're going to be filming a lot of food. So one thing that I do notice when you're in program auto, it does do expose to your face when you have face tracking or eye tracking, but it is kind of slow. So if you were trying to be really quick with it, it's going to take a sec for it to adapt. It's not instant. So when you're walking around doing run and gun vlog style, I would probably go with program auto like I said before, but if you're doing B-roll and different things like that, trying to be more cinematic, I would definitely say take the time to wait for these loud cars, wait for the loud cars. I would definitely take the time to get your manual settings right, get your exposure set correctly, and your white balance if you can, because then those B-roll shots will look that much more cinematic. and they'll contrast with your vlogging walking shots. Okay, so one thing that I'm noticing in our screen is that when you're wearing masks, the face tracking feature does not work on the Sony camera. I don't think the eye tracking is either. But as soon as you take off your mask, now you have a box around your face. I have eye tracking and she has face tracking. So I think this might be kind of a cool camera for doing side-by-side stuff because it should keep both of us relatively in focus. Our other camera, when we're walking around, I've definitely noticed in the past, I'll be in focus and then you'll be way out of focus. So it's nice to know that this camera is doing a face tracking and eye tracking. You're still staying face, yeah. I don't know if it's changing the aperture in that mode or something, but that's one maybe plus side if you're using program auto, is that it might actually allow you to face track two people, which is really nice. So one other main feature that I really like about this is the active stabilization. You get some pretty gimbal smooth looking stuff. Not super gimbal, it's smooth enough to where people who are watching your videos aren't going to turn it off because it looks like this. This camera does feature touch tracking, where you can touch the screen and it'll track you. And it also features Sony's newest autofocus, so you know this camera is going to have really good focus. One thing I really do like about this camera is that how small this thing is. You're effectively walking around with something really not that big. People aren't staring at me as much as I normally do when you pull out the big camera with the big Gorilla Pod. For people who are shy on vlogging, I think this is a better camera because you can kind of just walk around and it's not super weird. You just pop this thing in your pocket when you're done. It's pretty cool.
It's open!
Ooh, tacos!
Tacos, 2 without onions, carne asada.
And a Coke.
Oh, and a Coke.
So if you're actually in Puerto Vallarta, go to Memos. These are like the best tacos out there.
They're good.
I love this taco. Oh man, those tacos. Well, what's really cool is how well this camera. This is awkward, guys, doing a travel vlog and a gear review at the same time. So what was really cool is that this camera had a really good ability to stay steady. So when I was doing some of those like slider shots, they're not slider shots, they're just all handheld. I love how this thing kind of just looks, when you do that, it stays steady, almost like it's on a slider. Versus a lot of other cameras that I've done handheld with, it shakes and looks handheld. So I think this thing did a really good job of like, I was getting like this close to those tacos, and I don't know what the minimum focus on this camera is supposed to be, but it's definitely inches, like maybe even an inch. So the minimum focus on this camera is really, really short, which is a very good plus for doing food and anything that you need to be really close to. A lot of other cameras, you get a few inches from it and you start losing focus and you can't really get it well. So this thing passes the food test perfectly. And you could still make it look pretty cinematic while they're cooking. If I would have had a little bit better angle, I could have got some really cool shots there. But that's all we could get, being that the stand was this high compared to us. So a lot of it was just putting my hands over the head. So we're gonna head back to our hotel and go to the beach for the sunset. I'm gonna take off the wide angle lens and the Ulanzi stick and just go completely handheld for the walk back, and let's just see what that looks like. Okay, so now we are back on handheld. And this is just an active stabilization, so this is how close you're going to get with my arm extended all the way out. I would definitely recommend using some kind of handheld tripod or selfie stick. And definitely I really am starting to become a bigger fan of the Ulanzi wide angle lens. I know it takes up some extra bulk, but it does help get it a little further away. I did also forget to mention that I am using the Rode Micro on top of this camera. I'm not using the onboard camera because it's just it picks up too much around it, in my opinion. This is one of the smallest little shotgun mics you can get. So either getting something like this or the wireless Go. All right, guys, we'll catch you back at the hotel. Okay, so we just got back to our resort and we missed the sunset. So unfortunately,
we watched it.
Okay.
We missed it with the camera.
I was like a block down the street and I saw the sun halfway down. So we just quick ran and we witnessed it by eye and we missed it on the camera. So unfortunately, this time around, you guys won't be seeing a sunset on the ZV-1. Alright, so the sun has been set now. It's getting quite dark. This is kind of what this camera looks like in low light in program auto. Can't tell how great it's doing. It definitely looks dark, but it's maybe usable.
Try facing this way. I don't know if that's helping.
So not much light's going on here. Let me quick jump this thing down to manual because I think this camera doesn't do well in program auto with low light. So let's check it in a manual setting. Okay, so now it's in manual settings. I have it set to 1/50th of a shutter speed. I have the defocus button selected, so it's bringing it down to 1.8 aperture. And we're at about 800 ISO, which I think on this camera is probably the highest you kind of want to go without getting noise. And this looks quite a bit better than it did in program auto. So if you are using this camera at night, I would highly recommend jumping this thing into manual settings. All right, guys, so tomorrow we're going to go check out what the animal eye tracking looks like. We're going to go visit the Puerto Vallarta SPCA and visit a bunch of little puppies and try to get them on camera and use the auto eye tracking for the dogs, for animal, which I believe might only be photo, not video, but we'll check when we get there tomorrow. All right, guys. All right, guys, so today we stopped at the Puerto Vallarta SPCA Rescue Center. They have this gorgeous facility out in Puerto Vallarta, and they invited us down to come hang out with all these puppies and dogs. So one of the modes on the Sony ZV-1 is eye tracking for animal. If you switch it to animal, it allows you to basically get focus eye tracking on animals. Unfortunately, it does not actually work in video mode. It does only work in photography, which is something I wish it did work in video. Maybe that's something Sony will come out with down the road. But at the moment now, it only works with photos. So before we get to the photos part, I just wanted to walk around the facility and kind of get a general sense on how well the autofocus works when you have kind of fast moving puppies. And then also another thing too is once there's a chain link fence in front, is it going to focus on the fence? Is it going to focus to the animal? And so far I noticed that the camera does do pretty well at kind of locking focus on what I want it to lock focus on. As well as that in intelligent video, the exposure actually does do a really good job at deciding how bright it wants to be in these shots, even though inside this facility was actually kind of dark, with the exception of the natural sunlight that was coming in from the sides. Okay, so now switching over to photography using the eye tracking mode for focus. So in this first shot here, you can see that his eyes are pretty sharp. They're pretty much in focus. Not really having any problems with the fence being in the way. This next shot, I did kind of have a little bit of problems with the fence kind of jumping in and out, but it did manage to get a good shot with the eye tracking still there. On this one, I turned the eye tracking off and you can kind of see how blurry the eyes are. It's actually got more of the fence in focus. This one, very, very clearly sharp in the eye. Probably the sharpest part of the photo is his eye. And on this last shot here, this guy was running all over the place trying to avoid getting his photo taken, but thanks to the Sony camera with the animal eye tracking, was able to get him in focus and captured this photo. All right, guys, so that is the Sony ZV-1 for travel vlogging, or at least a gear review disguised as a travel vlog. So anyways, I think this is the perfect option for a lot of you guys who are going to be getting a camera soon to go traveling with, now that traveling is starting to open up around the world a bit more. This is going to be a very popular camera for this. It's small and it looks just as good as some of the other cameras like the A6400. You can get a couple accessories to make this thing a little bit better. I do have a video on that. Or link above here and you'll see that one. But otherwise, this thing is going to be great option, you guys, for just being on the go. with its kind of auto modes, its program auto. It does well in program auto. You do have to do some manual settings here and there for doing some fancier B-roll maybe. But otherwise, this thing's a great camera, and I think I'm going to be using it a whole lot more for just kind of traveling around. So anyways, you guys, I got to get back to Minnesota tomorrow, so I'm going to enjoy myself in Mexico one more night. Later. Catch you on the next one.